A very good evening and Sukhi Hotu to one and all. Welcome to the Buddhist Mahavira's Facebook page. We are going live this evening, a bit early because normally we run at 8:30, but this evening we have to start the show, this Dhamma sharing at 7 p.m. because our speaker is based in Australia and there's a time difference, a 3 hour time difference. So to accommodate our speaker, we had to start this evening's Dhamma sharing at 7. I also noticed that, well, this could be dinner time for many of us. But all the same, we still would like to carry on with the Dhammadana series, and we're very happy that we have this new speaker with us this evening. She's actually a nun, a bhikkhuni, but she's based in Australia. And let me invite our speaker this evening. Her name is Ayya Suvira. Good evening, bhikkhuni or Ayya Suvira. How are you?
I'm very well. Yourself?
We are good. We are good. Just that I'm a bit wary because the numbers don't seem to be picking up because it's still early for us here in Malaysia. But all the same, we will carry on with this evening's Dhamma sharing. For our audience knowledge, let me quickly read Ayya Suvira's profile. Now, Ayya Suvira is a Buddhist nun or bhikkhuni in the Theravada tradition and also is a student of Bhante Sujato. She received her seminary ordination in 2016 and higher ordination as a bhikkhuni at the Dhammasara Nuns Monastery in 2019 with Ayya Santini of Indonesia as preceptor and Ajahn Brahmanso as instructing teacher. At present, she works at Sutta Central related projects dealing with Sutta parallels in Sanskrit. With the support of Bhante Sujato and Sister Tina Ng and the team at the Metta Center or Metta Rama Working Group, she's continuing the vision of Metta Rama's projects to provide an urban residence for nuns in Sydney. Ayya Suvira is fluent in English and Mandarin. Now, Ayya Suvira will also be speaking to us in Mandarin next month. I think it's the early part of February. But this evening, Ayya Suvira will be talking on pure bliss, the theory and practice of joy in Buddhism based on the suttas. We'd now like to invite Ayya Suvira to start this evening's Dhamma sharing.
Thanks so much, Tilak. It's really a pleasure to be here this evening. The Buddhist Mahavihara is obviously a very established organization that's been doing a lot of work for Buddhism in Malaysia and internationally. So it's, really, it was a joy for me to be able to accept the invitation. So before we begin this evening's talk, I'd like to begin by saying Namo Tassa and paying respect to our original teacher, the Lord Buddha. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. And to ease into the talk this evening, I thought it would be nice to spend a few minutes, briefly just sitting quietly and doing a little bit of metta meditation, because metta is obviously a joyful state. You can't have metta without having joy at the same time. So what I'd like to invite the participants to do is to make yourselves comfortable at the computer, if you're at home, just by sitting up in a nice upright, comfortable posture and gently closing your eyes and bringing your attention to the words of metta. So breathing in, may I be well. May I be happy. May May I be at peace. And breathing out. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be at peace. And we can just spend the next minute spreading the warm, gentle feeling of metta to ourselves. Making the feeling of metta fill our whole bodies, from the top of the head to the soles of our feet. Just feeling the feeling of friendship and acceptance with ourselves. And now we've cultivated metta for ourselves, we can spend a minute to spread metta to others. So wishing, may others be well, may others be happy, may others be at peace. To all of our friends, our relatives, people maybe we don't know so well, to all of the people around us in our lives. May they be well. May they be happy. May they be at peace. And we can extend that feeling, that wish for well-being, to the whole world, to whatever living beings there may be. So we can wish, may the whole world be well, may the whole world be happy, may the whole world be at peace. We can gently bring our attention back to the room and slowly and gently open our eyes and proceed with this evening's talk. I was very happy this evening because I got a free choice of the topic. So this is actually something from my own inspiration, which is quite nice because, everything this evening are things that are personally quite meaningful to me. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the screen sharing to work. Share screen. So share window. Aha. And I'm going to navigate. So you should all be able to see the PDF. So if everything's worked correctly, you should be able to see the PDF that's going with this evening's talk. So the title for this evening is Pure Bliss, the Theory and Practice of Joy in Buddhism. And today we'll be looking at some sources from the Sutta Pitakaby. So in the three baskets of the Pali Canon, the Sutta Pitakaby is the basket of discourses. So the Buddha's teachings known as suttas. So I just wanted to share some images, first of all, because in Sydney at the moment, we're quite lucky to have an exhibition on at the moment, which is focusing on these amazing statues of arhats that have come from Korea. And, you know, there's lots of statues of arhats in the world. What's so amazing about these ones is that their faces have actually been sculpted to show, you know, realistic human emotion. So, you know, we have these stone statues and some of them are wrapped in, you know, their robes, meditating happily, and they're smiling, which is very nice because, you know, sometimes when people get this image of arhats, which is, you know, arhat is the Sanskrit term for what we call an arahant in Pali, meaning a worthy one, so an awakened being. Sometimes when we think about what an arahant actually is, we might not necessarily have this kind of fully fleshed out emotional picture. So I like these statues because they show that awakening is something that happens, you know, in the human world, that happens in this embodied context, you know, of our lived experience and of our emotions. So we have this beautiful gentleman on the left who's, you know, just meditating happily. And on the right, we have another very happy gentleman who's holding a wish-fulfilling jewel, you know, which is called Chintamani in Sanskrit. So to me, this really, it spoke to me, and that's why I wanted to share it, because there's a Burmese saying that Buddhism is like a mountain of jewels, and that, you know, that faith, that saddha is like the hand that makes it possible for us to reach out and take the jewels. You know, otherwise, without that faith component, those jewels, they just stay there in the mountain. You know, there's no means for us to actually take them back and to absorb them into our lives. So that was something that I found personally quite inspiring. And we have some more of these little stone arhats from Korea. You know, these ones are 600 to 1,000 years old. And, you know, even 1,000 years ago, this image of an awakened being, it was something that would have been inspiring in people's lives. So people, you know, just ordinary people, farmers, you know, they would have, you know, prayed to these arhats, even if they didn't have a sophisticated understanding of Buddhism. They could appreciate, you know, there's something sacred or something special in this ideal of a perfectly awakened being. So these ones I should have mentioned, they're from a temple called Changyongsa Temple. And I think there were originally 500 of them in this collection, but maybe not all of them were remaining. So I don't know if anyone can guess which arahant the statue out the front is meant to represent, but I'm guessing it's meant to represent Venerable Mahakassapa, because as we know, Venerable Mahakassapa was the one of the Buddha's leading disciples, and he, you know, he's quite famous for living in the mountain. His home was the Pali cave. So we can imagine, that's Venerable Mahakassapa looking quite smug there in the mountain. So that's really where I wanted to start for this evening, because what I'll be doing in terms of structuring the talk is to go from Mahakassapa's own story and the instructions that the Buddha gave to Mahakassapa, and then to expand out the theme of joy from there. So Mahakassapa had originally gone forth, and maybe some of you know the story where his wife was Pitakaby. That particular story is from a different location. Are we talking about some material that comes from the Samyutta Nikaya about Mahakassapa's going forth story, which doesn't actually mention Pitakaby? So he's gone forth, he's put on a yellow robe, and he's traveling along the road between Rajagaha and Nalanda. So Nalanda is to the north of Rajagaha, and we can imagine that he's walking and he's looking for a teacher. He hasn't met the Buddha yet. He's embarked on this journey, and maybe he doesn't know where it's going to take him. And he's walking along the road and he sees the Buddha sitting at the Bhaktiputra shrine. And Mahakassapa, he had this incredible faith in the Buddha. And his exclamation is that if there's any enlightened being, this is it. And he immediately goes to the Buddha and requests to become his disciple. So, clearly a very important turning point and encounter in Venerable Mahakassapa's life. And after Mahakassapa has, been accepted as the Buddha's disciple, the Buddha then gives some instructions to Mahakassapa. He gives an awada, he gives some advice. And this actually forms Venerable Mahakassapa's ordination. So I wanted to share this advice that the Buddha has given to Venerable Mahakassapa. So this is from the Suvira Sutta in the Samyutta Nikaya, in the Kassapa Vagga. So that's in the chapter on Venerable Mahakassapa. So reading from the Sutta. When I had said this, the Blessed One said to me, Kassapa, if one who does not know and see should say to a disciple so single-minded as yourself, I know, I see, his head would split. But knowing, Kassapa, I say I know. Seeing, I say I see. Therefore, Kassapa, you should train yourself thus. I will arouse a keen sense of shame and fear of wrongdoing towards elders, the newly ordained, and those of middle status. Thus, you should train yourself. Therefore, Kassapa, you should train yourself thus. Whenever I listen to any Dhamma connected with the wholesome, I will listen to it with eager ears, attending to it as a matter of vital concern, applying my whole mind to it. Thus, you should train yourself. Therefore, Kassapa, you should train yourself thus. I will never relinquish mindfulness directed to the body associated with joy. Thus, you should train yourself. And to me, that's very interesting advice, because we see there are three things that the Buddha has told Venerable Mahakassapa to do. So the first of those things being to have what we call hiri-ottappa, or this sense of conscience and the sense of knowing what's right and wrong in front of the elders, the newly ordained, and the middle monks. So he has to know how to behave himself in the community, which is obviously a very important aspect of joining a community, because that's what Venerable Mahakassapa has just asked to do. And the second thing that the Buddha's asked Venerable Mahakassapa to do is, whenever he listens to a Dhamma talk, a talk that's about the wholesome or cultivating wholesome states, what he should do, he should listen to it with eager ears, attending to it as a matter of vital concern. So, when he listens to the talk, there's a degree of attention involved, that he's actively, maybe seeking out the main points and asking questions about them. And the third thing that the Buddha has asked Venerable Mahakassapa to do is, this is the one I want to talk about this evening, is to never relinquish mindfulness directed to the body associated with joy. So, sometimes when we think about Venerable Mahakassapa was the king of the ascetic practices. He kept the 13 Dhutangas, and, for a very long time, he never lay down. He went from house to house receiving alms, and he was well known for having a very humble manner of dress and a very humble, manner of living and eating, and also for living in these very remote locations, like in the cave on the mountain. So we might think that this type of person, maybe they might be not so happy, but actually what the Buddha is saying is that what Mahakassapa should do is to always train in joy. And this instruction clearly had an impact on Venerable Mahakassapa, because what he says after that is, for 7 days he ate the nation's alms food as a debtor. And what does that mean? He has debt because he's received the offerings of lay people, and these lay people, they expect to get merit, because lay people have this understanding that maybe monks are like arahants. So the fact that he hasn't fulfilled people's expectations yet, that's what's referred to as ina in Pali, which is debt. But on the 8th day, Mahakassapa fulfilled everyone's expectations and was enlightened. And, his enlightenment was so obvious that what he's saying about his own awakening is that you may as well try to hide an elephant behind a palm leaf, because there's just no point trying to hide the 6 insights that Mahakassapa has obtained. Those 6 insights being the Chalabhinya. So the Chalabhinya, these 6 higher knowledges, including psychic powers, the divine ear, knowledge of the minds of others, knowledge of former abodes, former lives, the divine eye, and the destruction of the taints. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk a little bit more this evening about this concept of what it means to train in joy. Because actually, as Buddhists, when we undertake the Noble Eightfold Path, we can also say that the Noble Eightfold Path in Pali is Pitikaby. It's to be walked with joy. So actually, the whole practice of Buddhism can also be described as a training in joy. And joy is obviously something we feel with our bodies. And the Buddha's asked Mahakassapa, to practice that bodily awareness, that bodily mindfulness that's accompanied by joy. So I wanted to expand that out a little bit in terms of what do we actually mean by joy in this particular context of meditation. So one scheme of talking about meditation that is found in, say, the Satipatthana Sutta and in other places in the canon is a scheme called the Bhujangas. So Bhujanga is made up of 2 words. The first of those words is Bodhi, meaning awakening, and the second of those words is Anga, meaning a limb. And, what are these limbs of awakening? So we have the first one, which is Sati, which is mindfulness. The second one, which is Dhammavichaya, the investigation of principles or the investigation of dhammas. The third one, which is Virya, so energy. The next, which is Piti, here translated as rapture. The next, which is tranquility, Passaddhi. We also have meditative absorption, which Bhante Sujato has given as immersion, Samadhi, and equanimity, which is Upekkha. So we come to meditation, and the Buddha said, when we meditate, all meditation has to come through this gate of mindfulness. And what he's actually said about that is that mindfulness is always helpful. So we take up a particular theme or topic of meditation, and we bring a certain clarity of mind to that. And, from there, we discern between wholesome and unwholesome states, and that ability to know the difference between, yes, this is wholesome, and, no, this is not wholesome, or, yes, this is blameless, no, this is not blameless, between a refined state and an unrefined state, or between a bright state and a dark state. Actually, that discernment is called Dhammavichaya. So we've come to whatever, mind we brought into the meditation with mindfulness, and of the possible mental states we have, we've been able to separate them out into ones that should be cultivated and ones that shouldn't be cultivated. So from there, we proceed with the cultivation of wholesome states. And as we develop wholesome states, our minds acquire energy, because, that unwholesomeness was really oppressing our minds beforehand. So as we go through this process of cultivation, our minds clear up, they become calmer and brighter, and become, naturally quite energized. And this is where we start to have this, this factor of joy coming in. So we have this very interesting word here, which is piti. In Sanskrit, it's priti. And here it's rapture. So this piti is one of the 2 major Pali words for happiness or joy. The other one of them being sukha. So piti has this quality of being quite engaging or exciting to the mind. So, sometimes you might get goosebumps, or your hair might stand on end. So we have these, these very rapturous feelings. And this is obviously something that meditators experience. Just the other day, the meditators were telling me, actually, I had this experience and I felt like I was floating. So, these things are quite common in meditation, actually. And, from that experience of piti, our minds gain an attraction to the object of meditation, and they're not wandering so much. And that, that also in turn leads to this concept of tranquility. So we have tranquility of mind, and we have tranquility of body. And both of those things are referred to as passaddhi. So what gives us this ability to sit for a very long time in meditation? Actually, it's passaddhi. It's not, it's not necessarily that we've made an adhitthana, but our body has become so quiet that we don't feel any need to move. And one of the amazing things about Venerable Mahakassapa, this is given in another sutta in the Udana. Venerable Mahakassapa is recorded as sitting for meditation, for 7 days straight without getting up, without drinking or eating. So what is it that, that enables Venerable Mahakassapa to do this? That quality of passaddhi, that quality of tranquility of the body is very strong. And we have samadhi. So samadhi here being a kind of synonym for jhana. So any of the 4 jhanas. And, what's the pinnacle of the cultivation of jhana? Actually, it's upekkha. So this very purified and neutral emotion. So this set of principles is very inspiring, or at least if you're a meditator and you understand, what this means in terms of what your body and mind are going through in your meditation, it can be inspiring. And that's why sometimes for the Sikh Buddhists, not even necessarily Buddhists, just anyone who requests it, we can do a kind of like supported recitation or even supported meditation when they're sick by doing the recitation of these bhujangas as a type of chanting. So we have like the Mahakassapa Thera Bhujanga, where the Buddha, or one of the leading disciples, I'm not quite sure which one it is, actually recites these bhujangas to Venerable Mahakassapa during his illness. And as a result of that, he is able to have a bit more mental energy and strength. His mind brightens up a bit and he recovers from his illness. And in Western medicine, there's something these days which is called the relaxation response, which has some parallels to the use of these bhujangas as a way of relieving the suffering of a sick person. Because obviously when our body relaxes, that in itself will do a lot to improve our circulation and, to help calm down the whole system, which, it clearly supports healing and immunity. So what's actually being said here, I've taken this particular excerpt from the Anguttara Nikaya, is that when these 7 awakening factors are developed and cultivated, they fulfill 3 knowledges. So actually these bhujangas, this cultivation of piti through meditation, this cultivation of these joyful emotional states, right through to this very refined emotional state of upekkha as the pinnacle. When these are cultivated, they fulfill the 3 knowledges. So they can take you right through to complete awakening. So the 3 knowledges being the recollection of past lives, and the knowledge of beings being reborn according to their karma, and also they realize, I'm just reading from the text here, the undefiled freedom of heart and freedom by wisdom in this very life, and live having realized it with their own insight due to the ending of the defilements. So very interesting. So we see in Venerable Mahakassapa's case, what would that mean? Mahakassapa's training in joy, actually that instruction by the Buddha, it was an instruction that would have taken him through to the cultivation of the bhujangas and the cultivation of complete awakening. So I have a nice little picture here too. I'll just get my picture up. I have, that's Ajahn Chah looking very happy there with his hands in the air. that particular picture was taken on one of Ajahn Chah's visits to the UK. And Ajahn Brahm actually has that picture on his personal shrine. Okay, so I've scrolled too far. So, we've been talking about the bhujangas, and some of the bhujangas are calming and some of them are energizing. So we can see on the top of the screen, so which of them are calming, which of them are energizing. So out of them, the awakening factors of tranquility, immersion, and equanimity are calming. So we have passaddhi, being tranquility, samadhi, being immersion here, and upekkha, being equanimity. So these are the calming set within that set of 7. And some of them are energizing. So within the set, Dhammavicaya, being investigation of principles, Virya being energy, and Piti being rapture are the energizing ones. So what that actually says here is that quality of joy, it brings brightness and energy to the mind, because when we lack joy, we lack energy. So, like if we're feeling depressed or something, the whole world is kind of grey, like you can't see or taste or smell anything properly. You just have no focus, because your mind is very scattered. But when we have joy, actually it becomes a lot easier for the mind to calm down, because that quality of contentment means that the mind's not being dragged all over the place by whatever comes up. And I have one final reading. So this will be the reading that I'm going to close on. And this is just a reading from the Mahanama Sutta. And I wanted to share this because there's a very beautiful Pali saying that we'll wrap up on today. So the Pali saying is, Sukhino Chittang Samadhyati, the happy mind enters Samadhi. So if you want to know, actually, why isn't my meditation progressing? Actually, the first question we should be asking ourselves is, am I happy? And I used to attend a temple, actually. I used to attend Gold Coast Temple, very lovely Dhammayut temple called Sangharatanaram. And when I was a student, I would have been about 18 or something. I used to take dana there sometimes before I went to Perth to go stay at nunneries for the first time. And every time I went to that temple, one of the monks used to ask me, are you happy? And I thought it was a bit strange at the time, and I thought maybe actually, maybe the Venerable just has limited English. But if we look at this question, are we happy? Actually, this is the most important question for whether we succeed or fail in meditation, because if we come to our meditation and, if we aren't content, if we aren't grateful, there's not really much of a foundation for the mind to actually settle down, because all of those qualities, the contentment, the gratitude, those are what stop our mind from moving all over the place and make meditation possible. And what's being said here in this Mahanama Sutta is that when you're joyful, rapture springs up. When the mind is full of rapture, the body becomes tranquil. When the body becomes tranquil, you feel bliss. And when you're blissful, the mind becomes immersed in samadhi. So it's there in the text. So until, without that joy, our body just won't calm down. It's actually the joy, which is, that joy that comes from letting go, which is what gives us the ability to sit for longer periods of time and to actually stabilize our minds in meditation. So one more time, very nice take-home message for today to close on. If I repeat it, you'll remember it. So that Pali saying is Sukhino Chittang Samadhiyati. The happy mind enters Samadhi. I think that's a great point to close on. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to navigate back to the StreamYard screen on Chrome. Okay, hitting escape. Aha. And I'm back with all of you now. So I think Tilak was going to open up to questions.
Oops. Let me readjust the screen. Yes, Ayya, yes, thank you for the wonderful sharing on joy. The thing was, we couldn't see much of your screen, so what I did was while you were speaking, I had actually interjected by showing the screen that I had on my PC, so the audience could actually see it better. The point size was much bigger, so they could read it actually.
Thanks so much for that. That's a huge help.
Yeah, I think you didn't realize what I was doing at the back end. But I've also noticed that we don't have much questions this evening, or rather no questions at all. Maybe it's too early in the evening for our listeners to ask any questions, or rather they are kind of still absorbing what you said. But just for our audience sake, if you do have any questions, please do send it to us at our info@buddhistmahavira.org, and I will forward those questions to Ayya Suvira. Maybe she can take it up with you personally on a direct message to you. So if you do have any questions, please look for us on our Facebook page and send us a direct message, and we will reply to you accordingly. So with that, we've come to the end of this evening's Dhamma sharing. But before we end, I would like to invite Ayya Suvira to conduct the Anumodana.
Sure, because no questions. It's either very good or very bad. Maybe it's very good because everyone's understood everything, or it's very bad because no one's understood anything, and therefore you have nothing to ask. So I'm just going to assume it went very well then.
Yeah.
And that everyone has understood everything 100%.
Yeah, we've just had a couple of arahants just popping up this evening, probably.
Yeah. So everyone's understood everything 100%, and therefore we don't have any questions, which is okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the merit dedication. So I'll do the chanting to share merits. Akasatta cha bummata devanaga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu sasanang. Akasatta cha bummata devanaga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu desanam. Akasatta cha bummata devanaga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu mang paranti. Idang vanyadinang hotu sukita hantu nyatayo. Idang vanyadinang hotu sukita hantu nyatayo. Idang vanyadinang hotu sukita hantu nyatayo. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. There's a phone call coming in. Sorry. Thank you, Ayya Suvira, for the wonderful sharing this evening. So before we end, I would like to remind our viewers that Ayya Suvira will be on again next Friday, also talking on the pure bliss and the theory of practice of joy of Buddhism, but this time from the perspective of Abhidhamma and the commentaries. So please do join us next Friday at 7 p.m. Please take note that the time difference is 7 p.m. It's not 8:30 as usual. So have your dinner early and have join us at 7 p.m. on Friday. I think it's the 21st, if not mistaken. Let me check the calendar. Yes, Friday the 21st. Here at the BMW's Facebook page live. With that, we've come to the end of this evening's Dhamma sharing. I would like to take this opportunity to wish Bhante Suvira our warmest regards and our thanks for taking time off. It's almost, I think, 11 p.m. now in Sydney, and sharing your Dhamma knowledge with us. And we also like to thank our sponsors. Is there a bit? Just me a minute. I think, is there a question? No, there's no question. There is a comment. Um, so something just came in on the screen just now. So I'm just wondering whether it was a question. So we also like to thank our sponsors and also to all our listeners who stayed up with us this early this evening here on Sunday in Malaysia, and also the rest of the world, because we broadcast throughout the world actually. And we look forward to seeing Ayya's Suvira next Friday. So till then, Suki Hotu and stay safe.
Okay, Suki Hotu, stay safe too. See you. Bye.